Hey guys, continuing Iamblichus, Exhortation to Philosophy text, chapter 13. This part of the chapter I really like. Here Iamblichus says that the greatest evil we have is pleasure or fear. When we experience pleasure, we experience fear, we're experiencing the greatest evil that we have in our reality, in our existence. Why is it the greatest fear, the greatest evil? Because it binds the soul to the body. And the way it binds it is by forming a belief that the experience that we have is true. The sense experience that we have is true. This is how I understood this part of Iamblichus. So let's say I'm doing something in the physical world, and I'm experiencing great pleasure. This forms a belief that this thing is causing this pleasure, and the pleasure is coming from this thing that I'm doing. Whatever it might be, having a cup of coffee or, I don't know, making love or anything. And this causes us to seek pleasure and pain in the physical, to seek pleasure in the physical world. We look for those things more. So let's say, and that of course causes rebirth. We're constantly looking for things. This is the greatest evil, as I understand it, because it binds us to the physical reality. It makes us become reborn and search for things and try to derive pleasure from things, try to run away from fear in the physical world, not understanding that those things are not the sources of pleasure. They're simply reflections, that the pleasures we seek are much higher up. And unless we go higher up and we search for those pleasures through contemplations and realizations of truths, we will seek pleasures in the physical world and we will keep being reborn. We'll keep cycling through and through them. And thus fall down from the higher world into the physical world. This is extremely powerful, this part of the chapter, I think. Okay, so let's do a mini meditation now and then see what contemplations arise in relation to our own life. Yeah. Just a 2-minute meditation. You can do any meditation you want. I'll do my meditation. Okay, let's begin. Okay, so if you had any realizations, please write them in the commentaries below. What this tells me essentially is, let's say if I look into my life, one of the things that I want most, the higher thing, so to say, is peace. And when I try to find peace through physical things, then often that peace does not last. For example, anxiety arises in me. Let's say suddenly I feel nervous. And instead of contemplating this nervousness, what am I nervous about? What is nervousness? Who exactly is feeling nervous and stressful? Instead of contemplating that, which is one way to do it. And if I do that, when I do that, nervousness dissolves and falls away, because the mind experiences it differently if I contemplate it. But instead of contemplating it, often I try to run away from it towards things that give me peace. And it could be eating, for example. I start eating, but then I overeat, and again I don't feel peace. Or it could be having another cup of coffee or another cup of tea, and then I overdrink. It could be anything. It could be going to my wife and just to be next to her and using her to generate peace in myself. But again, that will only last for as long as she is herself feeling peaceful. So instead, as I understand it, we need to transcend pleasure and fear with contemplation, to investigate it through discursive reasoning, to investigate it through dialectic reasoning. What exactly is happening when we're experiencing pleasure? What exactly is happening when we're experiencing fear? Who is afraid? What is fear? If fear is just a tiny reaction in this physical body, in one part of this physical body essentially, in some part of it, to an idea, a thought, to what thought is this fear reacting? For example, if I'm afraid of what somebody might think about me, what is this thought that is causing this fear? And this thought is about me. Which part of me? If we try and break down these big concepts into particulars through discursive reasoning and dialectic reasoning, soon we see that the fear starts to fall away. And if we do this with pleasure, we see that the pleasure is no more big or as important as we believed it to be. It is just some sense being stimulated, and it's so minute and unimportant that it no longer becomes a motivator for us, that we become motivated by higher things, by reason. The same with fear. If we see that fear is just one of our senses being stimulated, and because of that, physical reaction in the body is generated, an unpleasant one, and we call that physical reaction, for example, fear. And this physical reaction is in relation to a thought, and we study that thought. It also stops being so big and so important that it is no longer a motivating factor. This is how I understand this chapter. And this is essentially exactly what psychologists and psychotherapists do in therapy. If a person comes and they're afraid of something, we start to study that fear, let them experience it, study it, look at it from different angles. And by doing that, fear starts to dissolve and fall away. It is no longer a controlling factor in this person. That's it. Thank you for your time, guys. A video will appear now. You can click on it to continue watching this channel.